All right. So here is a question coming from Santanu. Sir, in newspaper I read a quote which Varghese Kurian had said, the most important thing in democracy is the enterprise of the people, for the people and governed by the people. What is the role of enterprise in democracy? Read various articles from Google about it but could not understand. Shantanu, though you are asking from a different domain, but it's a good question to answer though. Look, Varghese Kurian, what he is famous for? Amul, right? What he call the Operation Flood. And Varghese Kurian himself, when he was there in Anand, in Gujarat, that was a tough time. I will not go into his personal life, but I can say it was a tough time. It was not that easy for Varghese Kurian to challenge the milk mafias of Gujarat, who were exporting the things, to the dairy products particularly. So he made a cooperative, right? As you know, cooperatives. So when it comes to cooperatives in India, if you see, that's why we are having a separate ministry now called Ministry of Cooperatives. If you're aware of that, we got a Ministry of Cooperation. Amit Shah ji is a minister for it. A new ministry has been made. In 1904, when we made Cooperative Act, and 1912, when we got this Cooperative Act 2012, amended 1904 Act, since then we got cooperative movements in India. In that, the term has been used, enterprise by public, or the people's enterprise, that refer to the cooperatives in short. So cooperatives, those cooperatives which are coming together and trying to ensure that people are together getting into the enterprise, they are the one. It's not something which belongs to one corporate house, it is not something which belongs to a few conglomerate or a few cartel. It should be people's own thing. Like Amul Cooperative is a very good example of it. And there are several other cooperatives. That's why you might be knowing that Ministry of Cooperation is now using the term called Sahakar se Samriddhi. That means how we can get prosperity from. So when we say enterprise of the people, that simply means cooperative. That they should be coming together, they should be making it, they should make the capital, and that's how it should be utilized. So I hope now you are having the fair hint. And those states, if you see those states which are done in, they are good in cooperatives, like say Gujarat, Bengal, Tamil Nadu, to some extent Kerala, and I'm saying to some extent Kerala because Kerala is good in cooperatives, but their structure is slightly different from this main cooperative strategy we have, as it's a matter of if you know that cooperatives largely the matter of the state, so state cooperatives and all. So cooperative simply means, when we say enterprise of the people, in simply putting. Wherever cooperatives are doing good, we have seen that not only employment has been more, but overall people life standard is higher and inequalities are lesser. On a personal note, even I believe that the cooperative should be promoted in India. We have massive potential in the cooperative. I'm looking forward to this Ministry of Cooperation, which has been created to give altogether new wings to the cooperative movement of India, right? Mithun is asking that, sir, what happens to currency exchange rate at the time of inflation? Look, whenever the inflation is there, obviously that time it depends. Let's assume that inflation of both the currencies are going in the same pattern and keeping other things standard, then the exchange rate will be constant. If not, depends that where the inflation is more, where inflation is less. And that's why while talking about new basket for tea, I have mentioned it that we had actually deleted 4 currencies because their inflationary behavior was highly fluctuating. So when it comes to exchange rate, obviously various factors are there, and one factor is definitely exchange rate. So when it comes to inflation, if the inflation is there, and let's assume that both the currencies have same inflation and other things are constant, then there will be no change on the exchange rate. But if one currency is having inflation, other is not in the same amount, then exchange rate value of the currency will change. It will accordingly depreciate or appreciate. So if the inflation is there, chances are, in the normal condition, considering country like India, if the inflation is there, chances are towards depreciation, right? Anything else? All right. So in the previous class, we were talking about energy, right? In the infrastructure, and I told you that, just to have a quick recapitulation, I was telling you that we are third largest producer, third largest consumer. Still we have 1/3 of what is called, what you can call as tons of oil equivalent TOE, which is 0.6 for us, while global average is 1.8 TOE. Clearly indicating that India is going to have more energy demand in times to come. I told you that the energy problem can be viewed in three major sections. First, what you can call as the generation. In the generation, as we are mostly dependent upon thermal, and anthracite is something which is missing in India, which is the best quality coal, we need to import coal. We need to, though today we got the news that at least now the coal demand is getting at the normalcy, but then even we need to import coal. And that is where we got our, you can say, energy production getting expensive. Then I told you that we have technology wise, we are lagging. We don't have much of deep mining. Then I told you that there are challenges like payload factors are there. Payload factors, I told you, simply means that how much they can produce and how much they are producing. Then we have captive power plants, which the companies are having their own. And that is how they are producing only this much which their requirement, and sometimes they get attached mining to them. So they are only what is going with what is called selective mining. So whatever the requirement is, accordingly they mine, rest of the mining is not being done. So then when it comes to solar energy, we need to work upon our technology. Financing is another issue. So that's how we got generation side problem. In the transmission side, I told you that India is one of those countries whose transmission is very poor. We have Power Grid Corporation of India that does the when it comes to transmission. We are having production of energy, but the problem is that this transmission is something which is having a lot of transmission loss. Almost 34% goes into transmission loss, and it is primarily because we don't have off-grid facility. So if the energy is produced, it has to move in the transportation. In fact, there is one report also from World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum publishes a global transition index to see how much of efficiency is there in electricity. Our rank is 74th. Sweden is first, clearly indicating that we need to work a lot, and the reason being primarily because of technology. We are still using very outdated technology, and lack of investment in that section is something which is the reason why we are not having technological upgradation. The biggest problem I told you is the distribution, because distribution companies called DISCOMs, these distribution companies, they are having their set of challenges. First challenge is that they are still having huge loans on them, huge loans on them. Their clients are not paying, and even their collection is something which is having a lot of political challenges, corruption challenges, and so and so. Even electricity theft is there. So keeping all that in mind, in Atmanirbhar Bharat, we got 90,000 crore rupees loan given to these DISCOMs so that they can pay their amount to the NTPCs and other power generating units and can get energy. Even I told you about Uday, that how we got Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, Uday, which has been introduced by the financing these DISCOMs. But this budget, the government has made it loud and clear that we are going to privatize DISCOMs. because we have seen that they were not working upon. Another challenge in the distribution side is that we don't have separate feeder. We have the same energy being transmitted, same energy is being transmitted even to the commercial and to the agriculture, and that's why cross subsidization is the issue. So when agriculture subsidy is there, the commercial get expensive and they have to pay the cost. So keeping this in mind, we need a separate feeder. I told you that in Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, we tried to have separate feeder for the rural people and those who are under Saubhagya. Saubhagya is a public distribution system in electricity where almost free what is called meters, etc., and electricity to certain units are being offered to them. For urban areas, we got a separate feeder now, that is integrated power generation. So that's how we are trying to have what is called separate feeder, so that we make sure that energy distribution is proper. Another challenge is definitely in terms of renewable energy, that where we need to work upon. We are working in renewable energy. India is very promising in terms of renewable energy because of two schemes. One scheme I told you in the last class, called International Solar Alliance. The idea was introduced by India along with the France counterpart Holland. In 2016 they came up with this concept, International Solar Alliance, headquartered at Gurgaon. And in that International Solar Alliance, now we have even America joined it in 101 member, and in the last class we don't have that status. Now we have that United Nations Security Council has given observer status now to this International Solar Alliance. That means it is increasing, its magnitude is increasing day in and day out. So this International Solar Alliance will look into, now in the Glasgow we have come with the concept called One World, One Grid. Definitely now we'll have what is called more power generation, and it will be transferred accordingly. So this is how we got, this is definitely a diplomatic win, energy diplomacy you can call it. In the International Solar Alliance, our big companies like Reliance are also playing an important role, because Reliance have already purchased a German company which is for solar panels. They had already purchased a good stake in the Chinese company, and many more which are into end-to-end production of the thermal energy. So this way we got what is called this end-to-end production in the solar energy, in the solar energy. So this way we are having now massive focus on the solar energy. Then there is another very important development called PM Kusum. In the PM Kusum, what we are trying to, in the Kusum we are trying to create solar energy. Those who are having barren land can cultivate solar energy there on the barren land, and can transfer it to the grid, and they will be paid for it. Even we are distributing what is called water pumps, which are off-grid and on-grid. Off-grid, so water pumps are those which are not connected to the grid, so they are run on the solar panels. And these grids, these panels, solar panels, obviously water pumps are not being worked you can say around the year. So whatever leftover energy they have, they can transfer to the grid and can earn money. An estimate of the Niti Aayog is saying that they are earning almost 60,000 rupees per acre. Then we have what is called some on-grid water pumps also, through which they can that they are connected to the electricity also and the solar panels also. We are distributing roughly 35 lakh pumps in the PM Kusum by 2022. So it's a wonderful scheme. So these are some of the developments when it comes to the energy sector, right? Now, in the energy sector, besides this, I told you the biggest problem, one of the biggest problem was identified by the Kelkar committee and accordingly recommended by the Niti Aayog, that we should be having one ministry. We should not be having so many ministries like Ministry of Renewable Energy, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum and Gas, then what is called Ministry of Department of Nuclear Energy. So we are having so many ministries that create a confusion. We can get at one place, and there could be very good example of it. I already told you that the way we have done in Jal Shakti Mantralaya. Jal Shakti Mantralaya earlier was having so many ministries. There was one ministry for water resources, one within the environment, one department was for Ganga regeneration. Then we got a separate ministry for safe drinking water and cleanliness. Now they all are being merged into one, and that is called Jal Shakti Mantralaya, a ministry of Jal Shakti. And that definitely is doing and having better coordination from water resources to what is called Namami Gange. So keeping this in mind, why not in energy sector we should be consolidating them at one place, say Scalekar and Niti Aayog. So this is one of the biggest tasks if you really want to see our energy sector doing better. In fact, I told you that now we are working on the bundling of the energy, off-grid bundling. So what will be done in the bundling of energy? 51% will be solar and other non-renewable energy. 49% will be your thermal energy that will be mixed in a bundle, and that bundle will be prepared by a third party which is expert into this bundling thing, off-gridding thing. So rather than energy moving in transmission, it will be bundled, and this will be ensured, and that's how we will gradually make sure more than half is coming from renewable energy. Because the problem with the renewable energy is that it is not reliable, because obviously sometime you got more solar light, some sunlight, sometime you don't. So reliability element is there. It's green. But at the same time, thermal is expensive and obviously not environment friendly, but is reliable. So we are mixing these two things in one bundle, and there will be startups who will be doing it. This is called round the clock bundling scheme of the energy. I also told you that in pursuit of renewable energy, now we are coming with what is called the National Hydrogen Mission. This is something where we are trying to develop green hydrogens, and we have gray hydrogen, we have blue hydrogen, we have green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is prepared with the electrolysis. And this could be the future. In fact, in the earlier we had, like NASA mission has used the green hydrogen that clearly shows that it has the potential. But in India now in this direction, I told you that we are having already an alliance called IH2A Alliance, that is Indian Hydrogen Alliance. And this IH2 alliance, which is largely led by Reliance and Adani Group, will be now ensuring that green hydrogen is available. And this way we are trying to work upon the green hydrogen energy in order to ensure that our renewable energy is increasing, and we are moving towards what is called almost decarbonizing the energy sector. So this is how we got when we talk about the energy. Obviously petroleum is something, though it's a matter of industry, so I will not go into that, but petroleum and natural gases is something which is another concern. And as we are importing a lot of petroleum and natural gases, something where efficiency is the concern which we need to work upon. And at the same time we have to make sure that whatever our natural gases are, we are having a dream project that in next few years we will connect the entire country with what is called gas pipelines. But at the same time, look, when it comes to idea of fossil fuels, that is what you can say petroleum, this is where we are gradually trying to reduce our dependence upon, and for that we are promoting now what is called transports, particularly for the electric vehicles, electric charge points, and a lot of thing has been done for the electric vehicle. India is continuously working upon ensuring that we are getting decarbonization of our logistics sector. Metro policy has talked about making solar plants and switching over to other options. So this is how, but in the petroleum sector we have certain bottlenecks which need to be fixed. One of the bottleneck is the pricing itself, because in the petroleum, though I will not go much into that, that's not required here, that's but then even just for your understanding sake, the biggest problem with the petroleum is that we are going for what is called import parity. That means, let's say Reliance, if digging the petrol here, crude oil here, and processing and giving it to the customers, in this, whatever cost, total cost to the Reliance is in the upstreaming, midstreaming and downstreaming, whatsoever is the total cost of Reliance is, that will not be paid to him. On the contrary, he will be paid on that price on which we are going to import the crude oil. So that's a very serious concern at the policy level. Various committees from Rangarajan to Chaturvedi has said this needs change, but there are certain constraints because we don't want to give the entire sector, because of our dependence, we cannot take this kind of risky decisions. Gradually we are trying to reduce that part. In fact, this was the whole controversy in the KG Basin, if you are knowing, where Reliance was not very happy, and KG Basin controversy was only revolving around these kind of pricing thing. So several times Dharmendra Pradhan, who was the concerned minister, had said that we are working on this price policy of the petroleum fossil fuel. But then even I think the better way is what we are thinking, let's work on the renewable energy and gradually let's try to reduce our dependence on the petroleum, right? So that's how we got in terms of energy sector. Anything which you want to ask, is that clear? Because I cannot see any input from you. Any question or anything which you want to ask from this? Anything? I'm waiting for your responses. If not, we can write it. All right, so you can give heading infrastructure. Infrastructure, in that the energy sector. Infrastructure is all clear. Infrastructure, in that the energy sector. The energy sector. Energy sector. You can write that. Energy is considered to be the vital global resource, the vital global resource, the vital global resource, the vital global resource, along with the vital global resource, along with food and water. These three are considered to be the vital global resource, along with food and water. Food and water. As a promising economy, as a promising economy, as a promising economy, India is bound to have higher energy demands. India is bound to have higher energy demands. Higher energy demands. In future. Higher energy demands in future. Higher energy demands in future. As of now, India is third largest producer. As of now, India is third largest producer. As of now, India is third largest producer and consumer of energy in the world. Third largest producer and consumer of energy in the world. Despite the fact that per capita energy consumption of India per capita energy consumption of India is 0.6 TOE, that is tons of oil equivalent. 0.6 TOE, that is tons of oil equivalent, which is 1/3 of the global average, which is 1/3 of the global average, 1/3 of the global average. Bracket equivalent 1.8 TOE is the global average, 1/3 of the global average. In India, the problem of energy sector can be identified. The problem of energy sector can be identified the problem of energy sector can be identified, or the challenges of energy sector can be identified under two various heads. First, the technical challenges, and second, the administrative challenges. The technical challenges and the administrative challenges. Technical challenges and the administrative challenges. The technical challenges can be subdivided in the technical challenges can be subdivided in the technical challenges can be subdivided in first, generation or what we call upstreaming, generation/upstreaming, generation/upstreaming. You know what is upstreaming, what is mid, and what is down. Upstreaming. In that you can write a few things. In India, the maximum energy is generated by the thermal plants, followed by new and renewable energy. In fact, here we include hydropower, new and renewable energy, and then petroleum and natural gases, and a very small share of nuclear energy, a very small share of nuclear energy. Achha, I'm not telling you as of now we have 40% of it, 21% of it, because 40% is the thermal, 21% is renewable energy. Why I'm not telling you, but you should be somehow mentioning it. As you are writing it now, in front of it, as economic survey will come now in just a matter of 1 or 2 months. So 2022 economic survey, whenever it will come, in the infrastructure and energy, in the infrastructure chapter, that is industry and infrastructure, which is most likely the 9th chapter of the second booklet, there will be the new data. You can get the data from there, because it looks like the thermal will go further down and renewable energy may come up. So they will give you the data that what is there. As of now, 40% roughly is thermal, 21% is renewable energy, and so and so. But then even you should be knowing, because if thermal goes down to say 34, 35, I'll see that's a good amount, because PM Kusum is doing wonderful. So let's see the data, what is going to happen now for this year, because this was the target year for PM Kusum. So it looks like that perhaps our renewable energy quota will increase further. Hydropower plants, some of them became operational now in Northeast. So we have to wait and watch, right, that what exactly the new status is. So just keep in mind, otherwise everywhere it will be taught, in your classes also of economic survey, in your current affairs it will be discussed, but then you will keep an eye that what is the new metrics now. You can write further that in terms of generation, the major problems involve, in terms of generation, the major problems involve import of coal, particularly the anthracite. Import of coal, particularly the anthracite. Anthracite, which is the best one, for sake of. We have coal, but our coals are not that good, except some of the places like some Kamur range is good, that Singrauli plant is there, anyone from Madhya Pradesh might be knowing that. There are bits and pieces, but by and large when we talk about our coal, anthracite is something which we are importing, that's one of the things. Then second, lack of technology advancement, so no deep mining. Lack of technological advancement, so no deep mining. In bracket you can write that lack of technological advancement is because of Coal India monopoly. Is because of Coal India monopoly. The next you can write that in fact that's why government is all set. It looks like that it's just matter of time now. Coal India monopoly. The next is what you can say, the problems of captive power plants. Can write, it refers to private power plants of big industries. Private power plants of big industries. To ensure uninterrupted power supply. And for that, they book the coal mining in advance. Then payload factor. It refers to power generation capacity of a plant and if any plant is not using its potential, the generation becomes expensive. I was reading one report, Dadri plant of NTPC, 6 रुपए की energy पड़ रही है उनको. Look, 6 rupees, that's something, just because of payload factor. Then, actually, when I'm referring these things like Dadri, Singrauli, you have not to remember it. It does not mean now you must be wondering that you start searching, Googling where Singrauli is, where Dadri is, and so and so. But I just refer so that you feel acquaintance, okay, fine. These are the practical problems. Giving an example somehow substantiate my point that I'm not talking in the air. This is the matter of fact, right? Now, and I told you that I remember the things because it's my bread and butter. I have to remember, otherwise. So this is how when we talk about that, how we got payload factors. So these are some of the major challenges when it comes to generation. Then next one is lack of promotion of schemes like rooftop solar plants. I don't know why people are not getting into that. We need to work upon it. We need to fix that problem. Rooftop solar plants. Though it is very irrelevant to say, but my house is almost off grid because I'm using one 3 MV rooftop solar plant, and I can tell you convincingly that it is something which is, provided you are little considerate about a few things, maintenance, etc. So you can fairly think of going off grid. I'm not advising that you should be going off grid, but you can think of going off grid if the solar plant is there. And we have a lot of provisions for it, but it's not reaching to the people. I'm yet still waiting that big companies, these sky-rise buildings, and these MNCs, they should be thinking of it. We need more promotions, it looks like. So this is how we got some generation problems. The list could be long, but we are confining largely to the solar, and in fact solar panels, what's called wafers, that is something which is we are importing. We need to work upon that. So maybe after this Reliance agreement with the German company might create some localized products for it. So let's see, but it looks like that government has taken this into account and they will be working on it. So that's how we got generation. Now, second is transmission, or the challenges in transmission or midstreaming. Transmission and midstreaming. Now the list could be long. Look, in generation we can have R&D is missing, ONGC is something which is not, it has been quite long that we got a new source of our own fuel. Cell gas is something we have potential income. So I'm not, because this is something which may overlap with your geography also. So I don't want to get into that where the cell gas is and these kind of things. That, we are continuously, we need to expedite our exploration. We have potential. Krishna Godavari, by all logic, looks like is bound to have cell gas. We need to work upon it. But that is something which is otherwise the part of resources in geography also. This entire Cambe and Krishna Godavari, it's something, Look, we need to fund more R&D, and we need to have professional. ONGC is fine, but they should be thinking more about where the resources could be, and so, right? So even in nuclear energy, Homi Jahan, if you see that Bhabha has thought of having 3 layers. Why we are not creating plutonium? The problem of plutonium, thorium as we call, because we still don't have 3 processing of nuclear plants, which Bhabha thought of. Still we are happy because it's 3-layer compression of the nuclear energy. Whatever, but these are, here we are confining only to the economic dimension. That's why I had given you largely that coal import is the problem. I'm not getting into that exploration part, R&D part, and so. So this is how, when we talk about how we got in energy, right? Now the point is in terms of transmission. So transmission or midstreaming. In midstreaming, The major problem is transmission loss. Major problem is in transmission loss, which is as high as 34%. Which is as high as 34%. Acha, where Singrauli is? It was asked in UP pieces this year. All right? Really? Acha. Maybe because, Singrauli is having good, coal, no doubt. It's in Madhya Pradesh. It's a very important plant. Maybe it's adjoining to the Bundelkhand. That's why they might have asked. I'm guessing. Because UP government is focusing a lot on Bundelkhand. Bundelkhand, we got even uranium now. Anyone can tell me from Bundelkhand which place we got uranium? In Bundelkhand plateau, which is in UP, one part we got uranium also. That proves that we have the potential if R&D and these kind of things are done. Even Bihar came with the gold. Bihar should be very happy now. They got gold resources. I am guessing this way because the entire Bundelkhand plateau is the priority of the UP government, and in that obviously Singrauli coal energy is something which could be the good source. That might be the reason why they might have asked. Anyone? In Bundelkhand we have uranium. Yes, there's a place. I'm waiting for responses though. So this is how, when we talk about and in terms of production, then second is in terms of transmission. So India is characterized in massive transmission loss, particularly if you say 34%. I think this we have written, no? 34%. Now you can write further. As per World Economic Forum, global transition index yes. This all is still going in technical. Administrative will write second. So first we have written in the what is called technical part. In technical, first was in terms of production, second is in terms of production or generation, second is in terms of transmission. As per global transition index of World Economic Forum, India ranks 74th. India ranks 74th. 74th. If you want, Sweden is first. India ranks 74th. This transmission loss is primarily Pooja is saying Jamui. Pooja, you are not wrong, but actually it's Lalitpur. Lalitpur is the place where we got that platoon. So Jamui is something, it comes in the thread, so maybe. But Lalitpur is officially now getting what is called, that's what the point is, and that's why I'm always continuously telling you that keep your eyes open. This is what UPSC wants from you. UPSC does not want you to be what is called an academician. So we got it's a big news that in UP, that too an area which is very otherwise having economic inequality is characterized by something very much needed. So Sonbhadra is there. Sonbhadra, that stretch is fine. Sonbhadra, Lalitpur we got the repository now. So Sonbhadra is also fine, but Sonbhadra is now potentiality. Obviously, when we talk about platinum, it is something which is going to continue. So when we are talking about uranium, when we are talking about all these kind of things, one thing is for sure, Bundelkhand and Araulis are having it. That is now what the outcome is, and that makes the potential. So and UP government is focusing upon it. Even Madhya Pradesh government got one of the biggest solar plants. Now these are the state wise things, so I'm not going into that. You should be remembering at least your corresponding states. Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, these two are the states which are going to make massive solar plants. Madhya Pradesh is perhaps going to be the biggest one. Lalitpur, all right. So this is how we got, by the way. So coming back to the point. So transmission is something which is, you know, a serious concern in India, because we are having 34% of loss, and as you know now, that our rank is 74th. This problem is primarily because, you can write, this problem is primarily because, this problem is primarily because, this problem is primarily because Power Grid Corporation of India, Power Grid Corporation of India, Power Grid Corporation of India is not up to the mark for technology upgradation, for technology upgradation to off-grid storage of the surplus energy, off-grid storage of the surplus energy, off-grid storage of the surplus energy. Surplus energy. Even the national grid in real sense, national grid in real sense has yet not come. National grid in real sense has yet not come. We have now so-called national grid where the eastern and western grids are coming together, but that's not in the real sense, right? Because national grid, the idea of the national grid is that when we have what is called off-grid storage also. Fine. And be careful, there are two national grids. One is in energy and another is in, anyone? Have you heard of any other national grid in any other sector than the energy? India's rank is 74, I guess, or is it 87? I think 74. Acha. Amitesh is saying he works in NTPC Shakti Nagar near Singrauli. Good. It's 7, it should be, I don't know. The reports are, economic survey saying 74, so I am saying 74. Alright. Fine. But then even you can check it, whatever, but you should be aware of that there is, you know, an index by World Economic Forum regarding this. At T7, I think, are you talking about that rank, you know, which is gender gap or something? India's rank 87th in World Economic Forum Global Energy Transition Index 2021. All right. And what is the rank of the first one? Sweden is still in the first. All right. So maybe we got the new report now. All right, fine. You can update it. Thank you, Pooja. It was 74 as per what is called economic survey. But maybe the new economic survey will talk about it. That's 87 now. Fine. Very good, Sujata. Yes, we got another national grid that is related to the security and cybercrime. So this is how we got when we talk about a national grid. The true national grid is still a mirage. We are not having the true national grid as of now because off-bundling is not there. Now you can write. Yes, we in the national grid of intelligence we have 21 services now confined at one place. You can write further that. Third is downstreaming. Thank you, Anju, for this input. That's 87th now. That means we have gone even poorer. All right. Then next is in terms of transmission. This is the biggest challenge, transmission. sorry, the third is distribution. So we have written first generation, second transmission, third is distribution. Distribution or downstreaming. Quickly, in terms of distribution, the biggest challenge is the problems of distribution companies or DISCOM, distribution companies or DISCOM, distribution companies or DISCOM. By the way, out of curiosity, I want to know, can Conrad sir help me, that what is the rank of China now? Has that gotten improved, or they're still, in the 70s? All right. Because China is also having the same problem, and that's why if you see, they are working a lot into their energy reforms now. You can add further that in terms of distribution companies, their ongoing debts and the interest on that China is at 68th now. All right, they have improved a bit. 60th. All right, thank you all of you. That means you're listening to me very attentively. Fine. So you can write that in the downstream. The problem of DISCOM is because of their high debts and the interest of that. High debts and the interest of that. Moreover, electricity theft, lack of separate feeders, lack of separate feeders, for subsidized and commercial energy, and massive corruption at state level. Are the major challenges. For inefficiency of these DISCOM. Now, some of the major initiatives taken to fix technological problems are first, Uday, that is Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. We'll just write one line, rest in material and in current affairs you'll get additional also. Uday, that is Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. Yes, AT&C losses, you're right. I'm not going to the technicality of AT&C losses and all. Uday, Ujjwal Discom, Ujjwal Discom, Assurance Yojana. In this, the distribution companies, are provided financial assistance to ensure that they meet their financial insurance to meet their AT&C losses, that is aggregate, technical and commercial. Aggregate, technical and commercial. AT&C losses, aggregate, technical and commercial losses. Second, PM Kusum. We're just writing brief of it, otherwise detail, then it will take necessary time and that's not required either. The concept should be clear to you. Second is PM Kusum, Prime Minister Kusum. PM Kusum. PM Kusum. This is to empower farmers with focus on renewable energy. Focus on renewable energy with 3 clear-cut objectives. 3 clear-cut objectives. First, to develop solar plants at barren land, and the generated energy can be transferred to the grid. Generated energy can be transferred to the grid. Second, to distribute off-grid water pumps connected with solar plants for sustained irrigation and additional energy can be transferred to grid. And third is to provide solar grid plus electricity based water pumps. Then next, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, you can write DDU. DDU, Gram Jyoti Yojana, GJY. DDU, Gram Jyoti Yojana. Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Gram Jyoti Yojana. Under this, a separate feeder for subsidized energy distribution. For subsidized energy distribution. For subsidized energy distribution. Then under Saubhagya, and rooftop solar plants. Ensuring electricity for all. You know, it's all about SDG 7, ensuring electricity for all. SDG 7 says what? Clean and affordable energy for all. The next, you can write that in Atmanirbhar Bharat, 90,000 crore loan is provided to DISCOM. In fact, I don't want to go into that, what is PFC and the challenges, but that's another concern, the financing corporation. So 90,000 crore has been provided under Atmanirbhar Bharat. 90,000 crore has been provided to DISCOM to reduce their NPAs. Their bad loans, to reduce their bad loans. Now, fine. Now you can write that the leap jumps. You can give heading the leap jumps. The leap jumps. जो कुछ बड़े achievement है, the leap jumps. The first is India leading International Solar Alliance. India leading International Solar Alliance. India is leading International Solar Alliance. And that you can write that. International Solar Alliance was introduced at Paris conference, introduced at Paris conference, where India and France came together to offer an international alliance for harnessing solar energy, an international alliance for harnessing solar energy, for harnessing solar energy, for harnessing solar energy. Harnessing solar energy. As of now, 101 countries has joined it. I told you 101th member is USA. USA and United Nations Security Council has given it observer status. Observer status. Separate feeder, somebody, Anshul has asked, and Anju has also, that when I say separate feeder means we should have separate database, right? Which energy is going in commercial sector, which energy is going in, let's say, in whatever subsidized schemes you are having, so that we'll get one idea that how much is going into the subsidized and how much is going in commercial. We'll get the distribution. One thing. Second thing, that look, if we got separate units for it, we will make sure that any energy which is subsidized is not being used for commercial purposes and the vice versa. So once we got separate feeder for it, so what we are doing in DDU JJY, so GJY, what you call Gram Jyoti Yojana, as we got a separate feeder, now we know this is the energy which is going for what is called on subsidized basis for the purpose of consumption and maybe for the irrigation purposes. So once you got separate feeder and follow up of it, what could be different, say capacities in which the wiring system, what the way we are having, and other kind of technicalities which will make sure to follow up that this energy is not being used, because what is happening is that a lot of energy which is subsidized and given for the domestic purposes is given to commercial sectors, right? There is a proposal which Kelkar had said could be also way out, that as we are having separate feeders, if we are having separate feeders, because Kelkar when was saying in 2015-16, if we are having separate feeders, now we can say as we are having separate feeders, we can make sure that some of the meters are prepaid. Like let's say domestic meters are prepaid, or let's say commercial meters are prepaid. Either way you can say. So this way will also make sure that this electricity theft and these kind of manipulations and the kind of corruption we see in meter reading and other challenges can be taken care of, because this is something which is burdening on DISCOM. Because if DISCOM is not collecting the money, how they will pay to the NTPC? And if NTPC is not getting money, from where they will buy the coal? So these are the challenges. Now, so that's how we got when we talk about International Solar Alliance. Now you can write further that additionally in this International Solar Alliance, International Solar Alliance at Glasgow, And now recently ISA get observer status of United Nations General Assembly. So, obviously once you're talking about United Nations General Assembly and all the veto members are the member, you can say this way that UNSC or UNGA, whatever you want to term, right? So, we are saying that the presence of these big shots, what is the point is, when I'm saying that, observer status of United Nations General Assembly or even Security Council, because all the veto members are there now. So keeping this in mind, what is the advantage of, you can say United Nations General Assembly, because we are not here about that technicality of United Nations per se. So United Nations General Assembly is something which has given observer status, or Security Council, that's a permanent body. So via that only, it will be examined. So that way it has given the observer status. United Nations has given the observer status to ISA. Right. What is the advantage of it in the nutshell, if you got what is called United Nations observer status? That now these members at the Security Council, they will be little lenient to them. So that's how. That's the reason why it was said that way. I hope, Giridhar, it's clear to you. So getting back to the point, now as we got this International Solar Alliance, you can write that at Glasgow, one world, one grid, one sun, one world, one grid. Caption has been given. One sun, one world, one grid, caption has been given. Caption has been given. Which will reduce the regional disparities, and which will reduce the regional disparities in terms of solar energy production, in terms of solar energy production. In terms of solar energy production. However, the critique of it, if you are reading Hindu, when this United Nations is actively coming, I don't want to get into that why Security Council issue is coming up in that now. Because look, the biggest problem is, of the total world energy production, how much of the surplus is being generated in USA. So keeping this in mind, now people are skeptic that what if they, start outsourcing, and at the higher cost, because obviously the tariff will be something which will be guided by these, alliances and so and so. But that's a political debate. We are not here for it. As of now, I think it's a good move. At least we will harness the solar energy. The rest of the things are subjected to diplomacy, that what cost you will get and what will be your political strength and weakness at international level. But one thing is for sure, that International Solar Alliance is going to help the whole world for green energy. That is, at least we can say safely, we can assume safely. So that's how we got ISA. Three things you have to remember: 101 countries, USA is there, United Nations General Assembly has given its observer status. Then you have to remember that what is called this consideration, this concept that we got now one sun, one world, one grid, and India is the one leader for it. If you want, you can write the headquarters is in Gurgaon. Maybe this kind of question might be asked here and there. The headquarters is in Gurgaon. I hope, Giridhar, it's clear to you whatever your concern was. Giridhar, Suraj and Anshul. So you can say UNSC/UNGA. I don't want to get into that debate as of now, because what exactly. But for that you have to understand the energy diplomacy and the geopolitics, right? And definitely, and this geopolitics is not new. It is right from the time of Bismarck. Bismarck was the one who championed this way back. I have been knowing the Bismarck. So he was the one who championed this geopolitics. In fact, the term was given by him, and it was entire about the energy that time, from Prussia's gas to what is called, this Iranian pipeline and resources of petroleum. So there's a whole history of it. There's a whole, it's not that straightforward, but as a bureaucrat, I think you need not to go that far unless until you are getting that particular domain of expertise. All right. So, fine. So that's how we got when we talk about this idea of what exactly this is there in International Solar Alliance. That's one of the leap jump for sure. Leap jump for two ways, that SDG 7 and our reliance on the fossil fuel will reduce for sure, which is needed, badly needed. The next is National Hydrogen Mission. National Hydrogen Mission. As an alternative of fossil fuel, India is working on developing green hydrogen. Green hydrogen. In bracket, if you want, you can write that out of three, that is gray, blue and green. Green hydrogen, that is gray, blue and green, with electrolysis. In fact, I request you, I would be very happy if this month Yojana, there is a very good article on this green hydrogen mission. You should be referring to that. You should be reading that. In fact, don't look Yojana. Generally, you judge Yojana by the cost. Obviously, it's cheaper than a cup of tea in Karol Bagh these days. But then even it's a wonderful magazine. So there's a very good article written about this nuclear hydrogen mission in that. You can refer to that. So in fact, the photo of electrolysis and all that, how it works, has been given. So you can write that. So green hydrogen in bracket out of three, that is gray, blue and green. Green hydrogen. This green hydrogen has been experimented earlier also. This green hydrogen has been experimented earlier also. In the NASA missions. And to promote its options in India, and to promote its options in India, and to promote its options in India. In IH2A, all in capital IH2A, that is India Hydrogen Alliance, has been made. IH2A has been made. So this was about technical. There could be a lot of things, but by and large, the economic survey infrastructure chapter is something which caters your need. Most of the things you might have seen that I have taken from there, along with the Niti Aayog at the rate 75 document. And the next, administrative challenges or administrative problems. Just to finish it, administrative problems. In that you can write that Kelkar Committee and Niti Aayog independently has highlighted that Kelkar Committee and Niti Aayog independently have highlighted that the biggest problem in the energy reform is various ministries like Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, comma, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, comma, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Ministry of Coal, Department of Nuclear Energy, etc. They must be clubbed under one ministry. They must be clubbed under one ministry. They must be clubbed under one ministry. Niti Aayog has proposed that there should be one ministry having separate agencies within it, one for research, one as a regulator, one for technical matters, one for distribution, and one for subsidized PDS. Along with one for policy making. So that's how we should be having certain departments or agencies within it which should be working under one ministry. It's a very good proposal, and I'm sure there is no technical hiccup of it. It's all about the willpower, and as we got Jal Shakti, maybe in next 1 or 2, 3 years we will see that we got something like Power Shakti, Gati, and whatever they will call it, Urja. Let's see what kind of fancy name. I think there are some people who had been given this task, that work on it around the clock and think that what could be the fancy name for it. Bundling the energy has been there. Now I told you that we are working on the bundling of the energy. So there are several things. Keep an eye. I hope I could develop an understanding of the entire sector, because every year in mains at least something has been asked. What they will ask, that is up to them. But now you got the complete outlay that how the questions are, in which direction we should be looking into, and so and so. I hope it's clear. Please, before I move further, I want you to know that, obviously we are writing, so you have already said it's clear. Now, the next section is about railways. This is not that big as the energy was. Railway, again, let's see on railway. In railway, the biggest problem which we say, railway has been the lifeline of the British government. If I say about the British government, they banked upon railway. And why they were trusting railway this much? Because obviously it was very easy for them to establish connectivity from the raw material to the coastal areas from where they can export their things and all. So railway was the engine of what is called the British administration. In fact, few days back I was reading an article. It was not an article actually. It is a research paper wrote by a lady. She wrote this. She was doing her PhD at Cambridge. And that was wonderful, that why Indians should not thanks to Indian Railway. Her data was surprising, that how much of Indian Railway has helped in looting the Indian resources, and that all was based upon the facts and figures of the British India. Whatever that has gone, let's either way, Shantanu, it hardly matters. Administrative reform you call, administrative challenges or administrative problems. Don't get stuck on these things, right? So you can say administrative challenges or administrative reforms. Either way, from one side it's challenge, one side it's reform. Now, when it comes to railway, so that's how British India has developed railway. And in railway, when the British India started, it was primarily for sake of freight. Obviously, railway can be broadly viewed into two. One, the freight, what you can say for the logistic purposes, and the other, what you can say passenger trains, right? Passenger trains. So, in fact, sometimes I really wonder the kind of question UPSC asked. Pure thinking question it was. They've asked way back, there was a question that what British has prepared for their benefit, Gandhi used them to create nationalism. Railway is one of the examples. Railway was the connecting link. Gandhi massively used railway to bring people together, isn't it? So was radio. Radio British have introduced for their purposes. Gandhi used to bring what is called mass line communication. That's where, in any warfare, if you can make others' strength their weakness, you become the leader, right? So was Gandhi. I don't want to get into the historical debate, but as per railway is concerned, railway was definitely the, you can say, one of the priority of the British government, and they had made several lines, and I'm not getting to the technicality, what is meter gauge, broad gauge, and these kind of things, but we had largely what is called railway lines developed by Britishers, and somehow that is their foresightedness, maybe because they somehow was knowing as the demand will increase, we might be requiring more space. So railway has been very careful right from the beginning to acquire additional land, so that whenever they have to expand, there is no problem. They had reached to the nook and corner of the country. In fact, not much of railway line has been added since British time. If the Britishers were somewhere, let's say, I think hardly, as of now we have roughly 69,000 as per, look, all these I am referring to the report of economic survey. As of now we have roughly 69,000 kilometers railway line. Obviously we are getting into what is called converting narrow gauge into the broad gauge. Narrow gauge was there, which was smaller, and now we got the broad gauge, and this is called uni gauge concept, when we are now having the entire country having the broad gauge. That railway started from Borivali to Thane way back. Borivali is Maharashtra and Mumbai. So Borivali to Thane, the first railway started in 1853. That's not very important, but yes, what is significant is that we got this 69,000 kilometer railway network. Needless to say, India is again one of the biggest railway network we have. However, when it comes to railway, as I told you, that railway primarily could be done for freight purposes and for the passenger purposes. Freight purposes, railway is wonderful. Why? Because logistics cost is very less. If you compare it with the roadways, logistics cost will be very less in the freight. In the British time, the freight cost was so less, so that for the British people or the traders, railway was something which was definitely their lifeline for business. In fact, that's the reason why in 1924, Ackworth Committee, I'm sure you have heard of it in your budget also, Ackworth Committee was there which recommended that there should be a separate railway budget. And since 1924, we got a railway budget with massive quantum, almost the same amount which was coming for the general budget and railway budget. Means that much of the priority to the railway by the Britishers. Ackworth Commission was there. However, much later in 2017, and on a personal note, I was very happy to hear that. In 2017, when Suresh Prabhu, I must say one of the most potential fellow, Suresh Prabhu was railway minister, he finally said it should be merged back into the general budget. So now we have merged in general budget. I hope you are knowing about it that by the way, who gave the first budget? Let me see how much you can recall. Who gave the first budget? Akhilesh is asking, can you recommend any website for research paper to study about Indian issues? Akhilesh, not now. As of now, NCERT and all these things, because understand the priority. Your priority as of now is to win the game. Win the game and see me on the other side of the line. I'll tell you so many resources, to refer to. From very good books written by some of the bureaucrats. I think they are not being taken very seriously. Like one book I often say, Public Institutions by Kapoor, who himself has been the Yojana Ayog and could have been wonderful an insight. I don't know why this book has not got that momentum in the bureaucratic corridors. So there are several books, Dancing with Maharaja, there's another one. So there are, in fact, there are those people who had served that portfolio for a longer period. Who gave the first budget? Yes, it's third largest network in the world under single management. True. When it comes to railway. So anyone, by the way, so Ackworth committees gave a separate railway budget and then finally Suresh Prabhu merged it. These are the trivia. Now the major problem of the railway infrastructure in India is that the freight was looked down upon and the populist measures were taken and the passenger trains were prioritized. In the Indian railway is in loss in terms of passenger trains largely. Why? Because we have what is called so much of subsidies given on the passenger trains and so and so. And then on the other side we have what is called freight, and freight by railway could have been much better, much cheaper, much efficient with lesser logistics cost and delays. India could have actually got the products cheaper if the railway freight was prioritized. But because of the populist measure, because of that, of late railway became almost symbol of political parties. And yes, there has been time. You might have not been born by that time, but there has been time, that increasing railway ticket charges might result into what is called losing the government. So continuously we have seen this cross subsidy was the problem. What is cross subsidy? That whatever surplus you are getting into the freight, you were putting in the passenger. That was to some extent acceptable. Please listen to me carefully. Initially what they did, whatever surplus they got in freight, they started pumping into the into what is called passenger. Even this was acceptable. The problem came, they started subsidizing passenger and overcharging freight. And as they started overcharging, people started moving away from railway based freight. That's why railway freight is something when you are carrying the goods from one place to another. Railway freight something which started going downward, and because it was getting expensive for the people who want to take this services. Even the perishable items cannot be done because the time delay was there, it was not reaching on time, and so and so. I am asking the first. R.K. Shetty is fine. James Wilson, good. Sejal came up with. James Wilson was the first in 1860 when he gave the budget. Yes, these are very important because that time budget was something although different. Now that we got the blue sheets, which are very important documents for this. So yes, James, when it comes to freight was looked down upon, and passenger trains went on increasing, and our track were something which were not getting modernized technology wise. We were not up to the mark. So what happened? Our average speed was lesser. Now imagine this situation that you are giving priority to the passenger trains. Freight trains are waiting. They are waiting. Already your overall speed is very less. Keeping this in mind, needless to say that gradually the railway input, the railway money which could come from freight and could be used for technological advancement did not work, right? And railway became the victim of populist politics. And every time railway budget was coming with getting additional cost on the freight and somehow not touching this passenger train part that much. So technology was the problem, gauge was the problem. You can say the problem revolved around that higher freight cost resulted in what you can say lesser demands. So that's how the railway was having this concern. Vivek Dubrai committee was made to look into this matter, and his first priority was that if you really want railway to be better, work upon three things. First and foremost important, stop this cross subsidy. Passengers train should be operationalized on its commercial pricing. That is something which is required, because we need to be sure that if the pricing is good, how much of subsidy you can offer. So stop doing that. Second thing he said, and that was very important recommendation, he said that non-core things which railway is doing should be outsourced, like say cleanliness. In fact, look, railway cleanliness is something. Now we got green latrines. Green latrines are there in the railway. That means the human excreta is not thrown out. It is collected and could be utilized even for the biogas and other purposes. That's how we got what is called the green latrines, cleanliness, food items, maybe what is called maintenance of these, linen, these kind of beddings and all. So these non-core items should be given to, it should be outsourced. This is what Vivek Dubrai said. So he said first, commercial running of the passenger trains. We should work upon what is called ensuring that non-core things are given to these, it should be outsourced. Third thing, which is primarily in terms of security and safety of the railway, should be prioritized. And for safety, obviously we should be working upon technological upgradation. Like now we are using GPS weights, GPS enabled fog pilot assistance scheme, where the railway driver is now assisted with the help of what is called GPS, especially in the fog situation. Unlike the earlier fireworks things, earlier they used to get a firework to provide the clean. So now we have what is called GPS enabled system. Technology upgradation was needed, and the most important was to develop dedicated freight corridor. Many countries have done wonderful in dedicated freight corridor. What is dedicated freight corridor? That let's develop that corridor which is only for freight purposes, should not be for passenger trains. Dedicated freight corridor. We have already developed, we are in the process of developing what is called Eastern Corridor. Eastern Corridor is there. If you see from Sohnewal to Dankuni, that means you can say from Ludhiana to West Bengal, Sohnewal, Ludhiana to Dankuni, we are going to have the Eastern Corridor. Eastern Corridor is there. In that Eastern Corridor, already this Bhavpur Khurja line has been opened. Prime Minister has inaugurated that Bhavpur Khurja line, which is definitely, I have seen the pictures are very surprising and attracting also. Now we got what is called dedicated freight corridor, big, double door, logistics going on. So dedicated freight corridor, we got this Eastern, that is from Sohnewal to Dankuni, and Bhavpur Khurja has been opened. Even the Western Corridor is there, from Dadri to Jawaharlal Nehru Airport, Jawaharlal Nehru Seaport, Dadri to Jawaharlal Nehru Seaport, and from Ajmer to this Rewari. This patch has been opened. I think it was this New Year gift. And from Madar is near Ajmer. From Ajmer to what is called Rewari, it has been opened. So in bits and pieces, this dedicated freight corridor started working. So they are the corridors made deliberately for the freight only. That means it will be done only for sake of logistics. The passenger trains will not run on that, and that is definitely a very good start. Accordingly and additionally, we got Kisan Rail also, which is completely air conditioned for the perishable items, and we have several Kisan rails coming up now, which are ensuring. In fact, we got now special parcel trains which started from Guntur. The first one was from Guntur to Benepol in Bangladesh. Guntur is having GI tag. Guntur chilies are having GI tag, and we are exporting that to Bangladesh. Anyone from Haryana or Punjab can tell me, is there any special train to Bangladesh from Haryana also, and for what? Have you heard of it? And yes, golden quadrilateral and its diagonals are taken into account now. So we are trying to develop eastern corridor, western corridor, as per what is called our golden quadrilateral concept. So we have what is called green laterals of the bio toilets. Anyone? Yes, we have special parcel trains, we have Kisan Rail, we have what is called dedicated freight corridor. Even we have dedicated freight corridor, east dedicated freight corridor is there from Kharagpur to Vijayawada, from Calcutta to Mumbai we have, then one from Chennai to Delhi and Chennai to Goa. These are the proposed dedicated freight corridors which we are going to develop. So we have even special parcel trains from Guntur, Andhra Pradesh to Bangladesh, Benepol. Now we got one more recently, and that was from Punjab, which was collecting cotton yarns. Cotton yarns has been given to Bangladesh now. So this way we are continuously working on the freight part now. Moreover, one more concern was there which Deborah has highlighted. Should we privatize the railway or not, particularly the passenger part? As many of the developed countries are having this model that track and driver belongs to government, and rest of the things belong to the private sector. Maybe the train and the area and all these kind of things. As I told you that in infrastructure, in national monetization pipeline, we are doing that now. So we had proposed 151 trains are going to be private for 30 years time, 30 to 35 years time. In this 151 trains, the operation, the train, the ticketing, all that will be something which will be done by the private player. The driver and the track will be of the government. Some people are in favor of privatization. Those who are in favor of privatization, they are of opinion that it will definitely upgrade the quality, the technology upgradation will come, and so on. So those who are against, I think they have a very valid point, that we have regional disparities. In fact, I could tell you, and I'm not kidding, even if you're an IAS officer of the high rank and you got your ticket confirmed from Delhi to anywhere in Bihar in the Chhath time, trust me, you are very influential. And that's not the situation of your ticket getting confirmed for Mumbai or Nagpur. Look, this is the regional there are places where we have very less movement. In fact, there are stations where there is almost 0% revenue, yet government is running those stations. Private people will not do. They will stop that. So keeping this in mind, railway has been an equalizer, a connector. So that's why some people are apprehensive about privatization of railway. I've given you both the sides. Rest up to you whether you want to support it or not. But yes, in the railway, if you really want to revitalize railway, where the option is in terms of freight, and we are working into that. So in one hand we are working in freight, and then I already told you in national monetization pipeline we are going for outsourcing that leftover place of the railway stations and so that we can create more revenue and that place can be utilized properly. So now once the dedicated freight corridors are there, they can be connected to the ports, they can be connected to other sectors, so that we get better connectivity for our export and in reducing our logistics cost. There is a very important dimension when it comes to railway, and that is because look, now what we are doing is that we are developing multimodal locations. Understand this point also. Multimodal locations, or what you can say, in logistics we call it hub and spoke model. What is hub and spoke model? Let's understand with one example. Let's say a truck starts from Delhi and have to go to Calcutta or Guwahati, say Dibrugarh. So if it starts from Delhi, the truck driver goes up to Kanpur, take a rest there, obviously, because he was continuously driving, so they take a rest. If they're taking rest for 2, 3, 4 hours, even the item is also taking rest, which is not required, right? Then obviously we don't have railway everywhere, we don't have port everywhere. So what is needed? A hub and spoke model. In the hub and spoke model, we have that kind of containers which by road can reach to a place. From there they can be attached to a railway to reach to another place. From there they can be attached to waterways to reach to another place. That means, let's say the truck started from Delhi, reached to Kanpur. In Kanpur, it taken that waterway number 1 and reach up to Calcutta with the help of waterways. From there, it has been connected now maybe to another truck, and it reaches to let's say Assam. So this way our cost got reduced, traffic time got reduced, and in fact we are working upon an e-way bill, etc., but then even hub and spoke model. So we make a hub where the loading and unloading can be done, and this hub and spoke model provides several options, road, railway, even airways also sometime if required, the nearest. Like one very good example which we can see near Delhi is Dadri, again Greater Noida. So we have a railway, we are making a airport there. Already we have what is called dedicated freight corridor there. It will be connected to the to what is called this at Agra, near Agra, to this what is called Yamuna link, also waterways. So what will happen? You have several options of the logistics. This is called hub and spoke model, of it. So we are trying to develop better logistics with the help of this, and that's why there's a place in Assam. Recently Nitin Gadkari ji has opened one multi-hub what's called park there, Jogi Ghopa. Jogi Ghopa is a place in Assam where we started now that multimodal park. So this way we are developing many, so let's say from Brahmaputra we are using the natural flow of the river, and then the things are coming to certain places. From there we can take it via road or via railway. So several options will be utilized for better and faster and cost effective logistics. So railway could be the game changer again, provided we got some technical upgradation of it, along with what is called commercialization, and focus should be more on what is called professionalism rather than subsidies. So that's how we got the railway. I hope it's clear to you. Anyone? I know that this is more informative, there's nothing much analysis, that's why even there's no point of using whiteboard, because this is something which you have to otherwise understand, in general terms. So anything which is not clear, is that clear to all of you? I am waiting for your responses. Is that clear? Am I going fast? All right. All right. Fine. So it's clear to you. So that's how we got when we say railway. Now, we are not getting too much of the writing of it. We'll just look into the crux part, because it's pure factual, right? There is nothing to analyze. It was pure factual. Wherever the analysis was, I had given you that this is the challenge. These are the concerns. So we can quickly write something about the railway also, so that we can move to the next, that is sports. So you can quickly write the railway. You can write that. Railway has been the backbone of economy. Railway has been the backbone of economy in the British time. Since since 1853, when the first rail of passengers from Mumbai to Thane, एक बार लिख लेना बनता है, Mumbai, that is Borivali to Thane, was started. In fact, let me tell you that in some books, some writers have said that the first railway was in Madras Presidency. They are not wrong, but that would not be called railway per se. That was a very short stretch carriage. It is around 1932 it started that way, but that would not be, or even Kolkata got the first tram which we got in Calcutta was horse riding tram. It was not using engine. The trams initially in the Calcutta were horse riding. They were using horse, like Victoria. So that it would be unfair to call them railway per se. That's why most of the writers call it Borivali to Thane. Right. Gradually, it became so important. Gradually, it became so important. Gradually, it became so important so that in 1924, Ackworth Committee recommended for a separate railway budget, recommended for a separate railway budget. In bracket you can write that, recommended for a separate railway budget. In bracket, in 2017 it was merged back by Suresh Prabhu. It was merged back by Suresh Prabhu. You can further that. In terms of railway, India is having more than 68,000 kilometers, almost 69,000, more than 68,000 kilometers of railway track, administered by Ministry of Railway, The major challenges of Indian Railway today, can be summed up as follows. First, not up to the mark technology upgradation, limited track development since British time, and considering freight secondary, over passengers, over passengers, over passengers. Along with cross subsidization, along with cross subsidization. Cross subsidization, that means the losses occurred in railway passenger trains were compensated with freight. We are just writing the key things. You can write further that Vivek Debray Committee recommendation for railway reforms. Vivek Debray Committee recommendations for railway reforms. Railway reforms. And that first is commercial operating and to minimize subsidies Second, to focus upon freight corridors, Third, non-core sectors should be outsourced. Non-core sector should be outsourced. There should be an independent regulator. Next, there should be an independent regulator. And investment in modernization. Investment in modernization. Investment in modernization. Investment in modernization. Fine. Now, you can write further that to promote freight, dedicated freight corridors are being developed such as Eastern between Sohnewal to Dankuni. Comma, Western between Dadri, that is Greater Noida, to Jawaharlal Nehru Port. Jawaharlal Nehru Port. Then east from Kharagpur to Vijayawada. West from Mumbai to Kolkata, or Kolkata to Mumbai, Mumbai to Kolkata, Mumbai to Kolkata. Then west on the Western Ghat, from Goa to Chennai. These are in pipelines, Goa to Chennai, and between Delhi and Chennai, that will be called south, Delhi and Chennai. Additionally, there are Kisan rails, and special parcel trains which started from Guntur to Beanpole in Bangladesh. Keep an eye on this special train because we are observing 50th year of Bangladesh independence. So, the connection, we are trying to remember each and everything. So, in that, it makes a logical connection that something of that might be asked. So, the first was from Guntur to Bangladesh. Now, we are having other special trains like, as I told you, one we got recently from Haryana to Bangladesh and so. Alright, so this is how we got when we talk about railway. Now, just for information that we also got a special purpose vehicle unit made for sake of what is called modernization of platforms. We got, within the RailTel is something which is for railway technology. We are looking into the hybrid use of RailTech. So, RailTel might be coming for some commercial services also. Then land acquisition which is there within the railway might be looking into alternatives as in the budget it has advised. So, keep an eye, if something is there in terms of dedicated freight corridor or advancement of the railway. Even we got a new metro policy now to reach, to ensure the metro reach in the big cities and all. So, these are the things which we are talking about when we talk about railway infrastructure, right. So, Guntur to Beanpole, alright. So, that's how we got when we talk about this consideration of railway. Similarly, if you say ports, if I talk about ports, look, there are some major challenges in the ports also. Despite the fact that India is having the Indian Peninsula, if you see the connectivity, because we have more than 7,500 coastal line, we have 6 waterways operational and 111 waterways identified, happening that 111 waterways has been shortlisted by the Niti Aayog. We are having potential of 111 waterways, 6 internal waterways we have already functional, and then we have massive peninsula. The problem of despite the fact that massive of trade is via ports, look, the biggest challenge in the port is that our ports are getting aged. We have not developed much of infrastructure and the turnaround time is very high. There is one thing called turnaround time. What is turnaround time? By the time a ship is reaching to the port, it's getting unloaded, reloaded and turning back. This is called turnaround time. In India, this is very high. Though we had worked on it to reduce, but still if you compare with the developed countries, our turnaround time is very high in comparison to them. Higher the turnaround time, higher the waiting period means higher the logistics cost. So keeping all this thing in mind, we need to upgrade upon our ports. Similarly, if you see that we have another concern that when it comes to ports, we have Port Trust Act 1963, which was very old and obsolete thing. Plus, from port, if we are not having what is called last mile connectivity, wherever the thing is produced or where it will be served, where it will be given, perhaps your entire supply chain will not be good. So we need to develop ports naturally. For that, we got two major initiatives. One is Sagarmala. In the Sagarmala, we have 4 components. First component is advancement of the ports. Then we are having what is called coastal economic zones. You might have heard of special economic zones in your industry. Similarly, we have coastal economic zones where we are trying to develop economic zones, keeping the requirement of that in mind, developing community accordingly and ensuring the connectiveness is there. Like as I told you that now, let's say dedicated freight corridor is there, which is connected to the ports. And then we have what is called hub and spoke model. So this way we can make sure that our infrastructure is getting interconnected. Sagarmala is definitely a very ambitious project in that way, when we are trying to ensure that we got proper connectivity. You know it, that we have 12 major ports and 200 minor ports. 12 major ports are under the union list, while the minor ports are in the state subject, right? So for the major port development, now we got another very important thing, and that is called, we got a Port Authority 2020 bill, which is now almost at the verge of getting passed. So Port Authorities Act, you can say now. Port Authorities Act is something which has changed the Port Trust Act 1963. So in the Port Trust Act, while the things were not very clear, here we made a very good board, and the board will consist of a chairperson and a deputy chairperson or vice chairperson, which will be nominated by the central government. Then each of the ministry, like Ministry of Defense is required, because obviously defense matters are involved into the border. Ministry of Defense will be involved, Ministry of Railway will be involved, Ministry of someone from Department of Custom will be involved. You know that Department of Custom and Excise under IRS. So Department of Custom and Excise will be involved. Then state representatives will be involved. They will be member. And this board, this entire board will be responsible for not only making decisions in the port areas, but at the same time they will make sure that whatever should be the tariff, what kind of PPP model or investment they will get, what will be the adjudication in that area. So in a way, autonomy has been given to them. Autonomy has been provided so that these ports can operate on their own. We are inviting investments for sake of upgradation of these ports. Turnaround time is the priority. Then what is called dead weight of the vessels is another concern. So when it comes to port, as most of the trade is via port, and obviously if we really want to be more export oriented, we have to work upon our ports. So we have this entire port thing coming into, where two major development which definitely makes infrastructure better. One is Sagarmala, and another is now the Port Authority Act 2020, which empowers that board to get autonomy of the port development, or especially in case of major ports, right? So this is how, then for the inner waterways, we already have what is called Inner Waterways Authority of India 2006. I don't know how carefully you are listening, but I told you earlier also, while talking about infrastructure, when I introduced this topic, that many of the things were the brainchild of Dr. Manmohan Singh in the Bharat Nirman. But the problem was that he was not having that kind of support system from the political people so that he can think of it. Now the government is having that free hand. In fact, when I was talking about this dedicated freight corridor, dedicated freight corridor act is of 2006, where we started working on the dedicated freight corridor. But the actual realization we could see when the Suresh Prabhu came. Similarly, when it comes to port authorities, Manmohan Singh was wanting this, that we should develop, inner waterways, we should develop what is called, these new port authorities, but nothing much could be done. In 2010, there was some amendment in the port authorities, in the port authority trust act to 1963, but that was not that significant, as we got altogether new Port Authorities Act 2020. So it was very important development when now the ports get that autonomy. So the board, which will be considering the representatives from the state ministries and nominated by the center and having representation of the employees, they will determine each and everything from where the finance will come, adjudication, fine, fees, tariff, all that. So freedom has been given to them, and this definitely will provide them more room for upgradation and technology advancements, and then dedicated freight corridors and hub and spoke are connecting with them, so that we can make sure our logistics is getting something cost effective, and at the same time our ports are getting ready for export things. So this is how we got when we talk about the development of the port. Two major things that you have to remember is, one is Sagarmala and another is what you can call as the Port Authorities Act 2020, which has definitely empowered the development of port. 12 ports are there. Those who are not, you might have forgotten now, because you might have done in polity earlier, that these ports come into the union list. 12 ports, major ports are in the union list, and the 200 minor ports are what is called, you can say, in the state list. So this way we are trying to develop ports, and development of the port definitely is the solution, because turnaround time should be reduced to less than 1. That is required, and for that we need to have what is called better. Even we are working on the inner ways also, because inner ways, when we talk about inner water or our internal waterways, can reduce not only the logistics cost, but also will be very environment friendly. So keeping this in mind, on one hand we are working on the internal waterways, at the same time we are working on the coastal ports development, so that we can make our logistics better and we can go export oriented. So that's how we got in terms of ports. Is that clear? All right. One is eastern and other is east. That's how it is. Eastern and east. All right. So this was about the port development. Let's take a small break. On the other side of the break, we'll write it. It will take hardly 5-10 minutes. Then we'll come to what is called something about the investment model. There is some part of it which needs discussion. FDI, FPI, etc. We've already discussed. So let's understand what is investment model, so that we can finish whatever is our assigned thing, right? So a 5-minute break. On the other side of the break, we'll continue. Thank you. All right, so welcome back. So we're talking about the ports, right? Let's quickly write something about it and then we'll move further. Now you can give the heading ports. You can say that India is having more than 7,500 kilometer coastal line. With 6 waterways functional and 111 waterways potentiality. 111 waterways potentiality. There are 12 major ports, 12 major ports and 200 minor ports. Major ports are governed by union government. Governed by union government. Locations you will be reading, you might have read in your geography, you will be reading in geography. Now you can write that. In India, the biggest challenge in terms of ports is the turnaround time, which is almost 3 times higher which is almost 3 times higher to the developed ports. Additionally, the ports are getting older or aged with not much technological development. Moreover, as export is increasing, the burden on these ports are going to increase. In fact, if you see, as of now, roughly it is 1500 million cargo which we are, and it's going to get doubled in the next few years. So keeping this in mind, we need to upgrade this, right? To develop infrastructure for ports, following 2 major initiatives are significant. All this again I'll say is coming from economic survey. Every year some additional information might be there, so keep an eye. 2 major development has happened. First, Sagarmala project. Which focuses upon port modernization, connectivity enhancement through coastal economic zone, port linked industrialization, and community development programs. At coastal areas. Community development programs at coastal areas. And second is Sagarmala. Sagarmala. Second is Port Authorities Act 2020. Sagarmala we have written. Second is Port Authorities Act 2020. This act replaces Port Trust Act 1963, Port Trust Act 1963, 1963, and is characterized by more autonomy to a board in matters of finance and funding, charges, fine, adjudication in their jurisdiction. So whatever will be the jurisdiction of this authority, in their jurisdiction, in their jurisdiction. This board will consist of a chairman and deputy chairman appointed by central government, and members from state, defense ministry, railway ministry, and employee representatives. To promote internal waterways, Internal Waterway Authority Act 2006 has been further strengthened These waterways are considered as very environment friendly. These waterways are considered as very environment friendly, and cheap in terms of logistics. Cheap in terms of logistics. In terms of logistics. In terms of logistics. Now you can give a kind of heading, subheading kind of thing. Hub and spoke model and multimodal park for logistics. Hub and spoke model and multimodal park for logistics. In this hub and spoke model, hub and spoke, S-P-O-K-E, hub and spoke, in this hub and spoke model, the transport connectivity of more than one sources are there. That is roadways, waterways, railway and airways. Roadways, waterways, railway and airways. And airways. And airways. In fact, look, when it comes to airways, as of now, nothing much has happened. Though Udan 4.0 had come for the connectivity in those areas where the ports, where the we don't have airports. But let's this Akasha thing come up, and then there are some new guidelines will be coming. So keep an eye that in this budget there might be something big. So that's why I would like to discuss, or maybe the sir will discuss whenever the current affairs will be discussed on that. But in the aviation sector, something big is on the anvil. Let's wait till budget. So what is this Akasa thing is going to come? Or as you know that quite a discussion is there about this. Plus there are some new changes in the guidelines. Udan 4.0 was not that as successful, so let's see whether the government is going to continue. Udan 4.0, Udan was for airports in the smaller areas and to ensure that it's cost effective. So we have to see that how the government is going to come to repump this aviation sector in this budget. After the budget, perhaps this would be the right one. And if my understanding is not wrong, probably you will get a complete separate chapter even in your economic survey on the aviation, because this is where the promise is. But still, so I don't want to, I really want that this thing should be discussed only after the economic survey and the budget is coming out, that what is the stand of the government now in the aviation sector, right? So this is how when we talk about this hub and spoke. So here we have waterways, railways, roadways and airways. With roll-on-roll facilities, means एक से उतारा दूसरे पे चढ़ा दिया, with roll-on-roll facilities. Roll-on-roll facilities. Roll-on-roll facilities. In fact, the way Nitin Gadkari is working, I don't know should I say this or not, but there was a famous cartoon. I used to see that. I still love cartoons, by the way. Bob the Builder. Whenever I think of him, it comes in my mind. Bob the Builder. Look the way he's working in all these things. Multimodal spokes are doing wonderful things. The way they are being made. In fact, as it's in my proximity where I stay, this Dadri project. So I have seen that the way the plan is getting realized, and the kind of, maybe they will have the automatic moving the logistic system. So if say there is a truck it will get fit into it. There will be a passage through which that container will be moved and will be fit into the train, so that even this this transition cost is or the timing is very less. So it looks like that he is working upon it, or that's why with due respect to him, I called him Bob the Builder. So, and it's not my own, I have seen this somewhere in cartoon, and that's how I could recall Bob the Builder. So this is how, when we talk about this hub and spoke model, so we have this multi-model thing when various connectivity is being prepared. Now you can say that we recently got a multi-model park in Jogi Ghopa, Assam. Jogi Ghopa, Assam. All right. So this is how, when we talk about, I hope you are not feeling, yes, he is obviously one of the best, no doubt about it, and my favorite also. So, when it comes, favorite because he is one who believe in working, not in showcasing, and so I don't like poster boys much. That's my personal problem. I'm not saying anyone is a poster boy, but I don't like poster boys. So that's how, when it comes to this consideration of what exactly the challenges in infrastructure. Now the last discussion, let's do it quickly so that we can wind up it today. Nothing much to say in that, but then again it's more about understanding part. When we say investment models, understand this point, that what exactly it means when we say investment models. The place is called Jogi Ghopa. Jogi Ghopa in Assam. In the investment model, what is investment? I have already told you. Investment is where you are putting your money and capital to earn more. That's how you call investment. When we say investment model, simply means how to create more assets and so and so. So investment model in general refers to how we are going to create more resources and assets for more income. So that's how, like let's say infrastructure. If we are developing infrastructure, how we are going to have money so that we can develop infrastructure, and with that infrastructure we can earn more money, right? So when we say investment model, simply means developing that infrastructure, that asset which is going to create more money, how the money will come for those assets and all. That's how we got the. So investment model is primarily confining to those assets formation, not for the expenditure purposes. Understand this point. I told you in the beginning while giving the definition of investment in the stock market, investment might be for even consumption. But when we say investment models, it simply means that investment which is for asset formation. And asset formation, when we are saying, that is, you can say capital asset and so and so. So investment for asset formation. Now initially obviously it was government who was thinking this. How we can do it? It was initially thought to be responsibility of government. So first we got public investment model. Public investment model. In this model, government was planning to tax more, so that government is having money and can develop the infrastructure and other things through which so government is making more asset and we got even more income coming. So initially we got this public investment model when the government was trying to increase taxes, savings. In fact, there was earlier a program called Kisan Vikas Patra. Kisan Vikas Patra was nothing but a kind of document of savings. So that kind of thing was there. So government initially thought of having more taxation, saving and all, and this way they can go for better public investments, right? So far, so that is good. So public investment model was largely focusing upon that how we can have more tax and savings, and this way we can develop infrastructure. But soon we realized that this is not good enough, because we got a problem, and that problem is called viability gap, and if the money is coming for that, that is called viability gap funding. What is viability gap? Project is almost 70%, 80% ready. 70%, 80% ready, but we don't have money now. Let's say we wanted to make a road with the tax, more tax and savings, and we tried to develop it, but now the project is incomplete and we don't have money, because obviously how much of tax you might have heard of that famous Laffer curve in your taxation system. Laffer curve finds that if you increase the tax, after point tax collection start declining. So that's why Kelkar, another recommendation, said that it should be up to the equilibrium of Laffer curve. So there was a challenge that how much of taxation you can levy, and then savings has its own limitations. So we started having problem of viability gap. Viability means the project is good, if done, will be doing wonderful, how the money will come. That's how we got the problem, viability gap. Whatever money is coming for the funding, this is called viability gap funding. Now this is a common term, viability gap funding, which can be used in any of the project. It happens sometime that you develop project, but the project could not. So we got viability gap funding, right? So as we got viability gap, we need funds now. So the other option was, let's go with private investment. And private investment using, initially we thought of debt instruments. So government has taken various loans from World Bank and external commercial borrowing, and that kind of things they have facilitated. So we got loans from World Bank, government has taken loan from other countries, that debt instruments. So we got, that's why I say that this topic is not going to, because all these things. I've already told you what is a debt instrument, that means you're taking loan. So it started with the World Bank having what is called private investments. When India got freedom, this model was popular. And that's why I told you that time Naqshband had said that you should take money from the outside and should develop, because this is having its limitation. Many of the developed countries tried this and it had not worked much. So private investment is something where you are taking loan and so, and the next stage was what you call as FDI, FPI. Now look, understand this point, more the FDI, more the FPI. If somebody asks you what is the advantage of the FDI and FPI, the biggest advantage is viewed in terms of money multiplier in your credit formation. Are you knowing this money multiplier in your banking? Not a surprise, whenever FDI increases, the question on money multiplier is asked. Money multiplier is something that means how much of money is moving in the system. Somebody has given money to you, and now your system is creating more and more money into that. That's called money multiplication impact, or credit formation as you can call. So we thought of private investment, but we realize even this has its limitation, because how much of loan you can take and how much of money is coming and how much of trustworthy these investors are. Because they were, if they are coming in FDI, it has, it was literally better than if they are coming in FII, because FII, that they can withdraw the money and they are only interested into the booking their profits, not actively participating into the business. Then came the third model, and that was something which became more popular, and that is what is called PPP model, which was nothing but the combination of the two. Public-private partnership, PPP model. Public-private partnership. In this PPP model, we said there should be government plus private sector working together. Government and private sector working together to develop assets and these kind of things. So the first PPP model we got was what is called build, operate and transfer. Build, operate and transfer. What does it mean? Let me give you a practical example to make it clear. Now government said you make the the road, you built it, you operate it, you operate the road, you maintain it, and then you transfer it to the government. Build, operate and transfer. Now how the government will be paying it, it depends that what kind of model government has taken. So build, operate and transfer. So let's say you made a road and now you're operating it, you're earning some sources from it and so, and then you after a certain period you have to transfer. But there was too much of risk for the private players. Risk of what? Risk of that what if they did not get expected profit from the project and so and so. So it was realized that people are not that interested in BOT project, build, operate and transfer. So what was said? The next was what you can say, build, operate and transfer, build, operate and transfer in terms of annuity. When I say annuity, it simply means that yearly installments will be given to you. Let's say you made the road. Now government will be, once commercialized, government will be taking toll or something like that and will be giving you annuity. Annuity means, yearly payment will be given to you in installments. That is called build, operate and transfer annuity. So build, operate and transfer, build, operate and transfer annuity. Similarly, we got another model called build, operate and transfer toll. That means you build and operate and you levy the toll. Toll you can decide how much and so, so that you can make sure that you're earning profit. So these were the common models which the government was working upon. Build, operate and transfer, build, operate, transfer annuity and build, operate, transfer in terms of toll. So that's how we got BOT model. These are the common thing that either government gives you annuity, every year something was given, or government was giving something in terms of what is called that you make the road, you operate it, you take the toll, and once the toll is over and you got profit, then it will be handed over to the government. This was very common in the past, that people were, contractors were making road and they were charging tolls. There was a time when contractors made the road, they managed it and then transferred it to the government. Government get the toll and make them payments, or government might give them annuity. So here payment might be lump sum, here payment might be in installments, every year something is given. So that's how we got BOT, annuity, BOT toll. However, there was another thing, that is what you need to understand, and that is called EPC, engineering, procurement. When we say EPC, engineering, procurement and construction. Now before coming to EPC, you should understand one more thing. Let's say I am supposed to make a road. There could be two ways. One is called turnkey projects. Anyone from that management background will be aware of this term. Turnkey projects. What are turnkey projects? Turnkey projects are those projects which are ready to use. These days we have these kind of offices also called plug and play. So turnkey is like I made this infrastructure in such a way and then I'm giving it to someone that now you can use it. Turnkey projects. Other is what is called build to order. These are largely two types of build to order. Build to order simply means that I will say that design this product as per my requirement. It's simple, like you buy a ready-made shirt, is called turnkey. Shirt kharida aur pehenna shuru kar diya. And build to order is something where you order the tailor that please do stitch a shirt for me. Now in both the cases, listen to me carefully, in both the cases tailoring was done, but here in turnkey projects we need more expertise of the engineering, of that how it will be done, construction and so that it fits the requirement of the larger sections. Now, let's say we want to build a road, we don't have expertise of the engineers, so what we do? We can buy, we can ask engineers to come from the outside and can participate, we'll pay them. Government is procuring as per they are saying, they are constructing it and then transferring it to. So that is called engineering, procurement, construction. Please be careful. EPC is applicable to all projects. It is there into all projects. Almost all projects are bound to have something called engineering, something called procurement, something called construction. So someone who is providing technical expertise, someone who is providing procurement, and someone who is providing construction. It is also PPP. Why? Because government started doing one thing, that we will do the procurement, but the engineers and the expertise will come from the private player. For the technological upgradation, engineers and expertise will come from the private player. I don't know why, but I won't name the book, but otherwise a very discussed book had said EPC is not a PPC, is not a PPP model. It is PPP because engineering expertise is coming from the private sector. So they are coming and participating it. So we got EPC model where the engineers were coming from the private side, government was paying to them, government was procuring the things, and that's how construction was done. Needless to say, EPC was going to be expensive but was needed because we did not have that kind of technicalities. Let's say if we want to, even today, as I was talking about dedicated freight corridors, we are having EPC model with one of the company of France, Alstom. So Alstom has given us technical expertise of dedicated freight corridors, right? So just to connect an example. So that's how engineering, procurement and construction, EPC was there. So we got built, operate, transfer. We got built, operate, transfer, annuity, built, operate, transfer, toll, and then we got engineering, procurement and construction or EPC model. So that was there. However, now we got yet another model coming up, and that is something called Private Finance Initiative, PFI, Private Finance Initiative, PFI. So what is there in PFI, in the Private Finance Initiative? In the Private Finance Initiative, now we are asking them to build, design, operate, maintain, and after a certain period of time transfer. I told you already here, what we are doing is we are saying that you develop the entire thing and after a certain period government will purchase it, and this is what we are using in national monetization pipeline. So railway will give them the land, they will go for PFI model, they will design, they will build, they will operate, they will maintain, they will take security, and after a certain period government will buy back. So this is how we got PFI, that is called Private Finance Initiative, Private Finance Initiative or PFI. In this they will design, build, operate, maintain, and then there will be transfer. That's how we got PFI. However, government later on came with one more thing, which was a combination of these two, and these days government prefers it more, and that is when EPC and BOT was mixed, and that is why it is called hybrid annuity, hybrid annuity model. So what happens in hybrid annuity model? It says let the people develop, let the private player develop, their engineering is good and they can go for technical advancement, let them develop. Government will have what is called 40-60 ratio. 40% government will pay in advance, though it's not given in one tranche, it is given in installments. So government will give you 40% with installments as per the project going on, and once the project is completed, then government will provide you annuity of over a period of time so that you book your profit. this is something which is getting very popular these days and one of the very favorite of Gadkari ji. That is called hybrid annuity model. What is the benefit of it? Why it has been picked up? Because you got expertise of engineering. Private sector is coming, and private sector are sure, because in this they were not sure that whether they will get the money properly or not. Here we are giving them 40%, government is giving them 40% in installments. Obviously the 40% of the 40% is given in one go and the rest are given in installment. I don't think that you need to go that far, but yes, 40% is given in the in advance in when the project is processing, and once the project is ready for commercial usage, then the 60% will be given in form of annuity, and this way they are sure of their profit. This way government is sure of their infrastructure is getting ready, and now government will be what is called using them and operating it and getting the money. However, government has also come with one thing called TOT, toll, operate and transfer. So let's say government already had made a road, money has been given and the things are settled, government had made a road. Now government will give it to a private player and will say that you take toll of this thing, you operate and maintain this road for 30 years and after 30 years transfer it to the government. That is called TOT. Many NHI projects are now under TOT and private players are interested into that. So what they will do, they will operate the toll, and obviously that will be attached to FASTag and faster services and so and so. So that will be they will be operating it, they will be maintaining the road, and after 30 years period of time it will be transferred. So that's how we got, when we talk about hybrid annuity, that's how we got what is called TOT model, which is new now. So this is how we got some of the challenges. I'm going fast because most of the things we have already discussed. So the only term which might be new to you, what is called annuity and this build, operate and transfer and so and so. So I hope it's clear to you what is build, operate and transfer, and what is build, operate, transfer annuity, build, operate, transfer toll, and what is private finance initiative. Now EPC model is good for engineering purposes, but as we know the cost could be higher, so government is preferring hybrid annuity. In that what they are saying, you take your expertise, you come and develop it, we will give you 40% in advance in a way. Out of 40%, the 40% will be given in one go and rest in installments, and once the project is completed and going commercial, then we will be having what is called rest money will be given in form of annuity. That's how we got hybrid annuity model. Then we got another one that's called Swiss challenge model. Swiss challenge. What happens in Swiss challenge model? This is something where we are now preferring in terms of airports and other kind of things. In the Swiss challenge model, any of the private player might come and say to the government that we want to do this. Let's say they said we want to develop a stadium which could be also can be used for sake of hospitals in case of emergency, or if they say that we are going to develop a railway bogie which could be used also for sake of hospitals in the hinterland in the any unforeseen situation, or could be utilized by the army people as a bunker, something like that. They created their own idea and they shared it with the government. The government will floor the idea. They will put the idea in general domain and will see the public review. Is there anyone who can offer them better? If the better is there, and now there will be an expert committee which will look into the potential of all these things, that whether this model is good, whether this model is good or not, and wherever whosoever is finalized, the tender will be given to that company, and whosoever copyright is, the copyright will be also respected. So let's say I give the proposal, but the proposal was given to some other company because they said we can do it in a cheaper way. I will be given my copyright on the things. So that's how we got Swiss challenge model. It's a new one where proactively a private sector is coming with innovative ideas to develop a project, and needless to say the project is something which is going to be a turnkey project. So they will, because most of the things we are talking about turnkey projects only. Like Vistara is built to order. That's a different thing. That Vistara which we are trying to make is built to order, where step by step verification is coming from PMO that what we want, and these kind of things, right? But generally most of the projects are turnkey projects that you start operating them. So this is how, when it comes to this idea of Swiss challenge, they will come and they will give an idea. If the idea is accepted by the government, government will make it in a public domain. People can can see that whether it's good or not, and if anyone can compete with this idea or can give better idea. And finally there will be a committee which will look into the matter, and whosoever is the best bidder, that means the cheapest and the best in terms of services, will be given the bid, and whosoever's copyright is involved will be paid for it. So that's how we got Swiss challenge. So these are some of the alternative models of PPP. So one thing is for sure, when it comes to FDI, FPI and sovereign loans, then we got, I told you that in the 1920s beginning, we started with what is called public investment models, which UK and USA followed. But we realized that this has its challenge, because how much of tax collection you can have. Initially the tax was collected on the rich. The idea was collect tax on them, have saving and develop the infrastructure. Soon we realized it has its own limitation. So we got into the what's called public, from public finance to private finance, where we started asking money from the private sources, FDI, FPI and these kind of things. But then we realized that this is not going to sustain. So we came with the PPP model. Some government thing, some private thing. And in the first was build, operate and transfer, then build, operate and transfer toll, build, operate and transfer annuity, and now we have the popular one what's called PFI, that design, build, operate, almost it's yours, and after a certain period of time government will take it back. Then we got another alternative model was called EPC, when the engineering was coming from the outside, because we don't have that kind of technical expertise. Often we were calling people from Russia, France, Germany and these kind of companies. And then procurement was done by the government. Construction was something which was finalized. That was called EPC. That's also a kind of PPP model. And then we mixed it together, that is called hybrid annuity. In the hybrid annuity, now we have engineers and the private people from the outside, but having what is called 40-60. 40-60 is that 40% government will provide in the project, and in the 40-60, 40% provided by the government in installments. The first 40% of the 40% will be given, and then others will come in installment, and rest money will be given in form of annuity. However, that's called hybrid annuity. And then we got what is called Swiss challenge. In the Swiss challenge, a new idea is coming from a private player, and the idea is flowed, and then whatever is the best bidder is given that idea. That's how we got, when we talk about how we got this concept of Swiss challenge. As I told you earlier also, that there was a Kelkar committee on infrastructure. So Kelkar committee, in fact 2016 budget has talked about it. Kelkar committee on infrastructure in 2016 recommended a few things for PPP. He recommended a few things for PPP. Let's quickly look into that what he recommended in terms of PPP. His first recommendation was, first thing he said was that don't encourage it, because it might lead to corruption further. In a country like India, Swiss challenges might not be the right approach. So he said to discourage Swiss challenges. Second, he said we should have an agency, kind of like IRDAI is there, Insurance Regulatory Development. So similarly, we should be having an agency which is going to be facilitator and regulator for this PPP. He also advised why not to have a PPP law. PPP law, and very importantly, Kelkar said, in our country PPP will work effectively only and when corruption is something, that Prevention and Corruption Act 1988 is amended and stringent laws are made for malafide practices in the PPP model, because it is something which is very obvious that too much of cost. In fact, many of the foreign engineering firms, we have one Silverstock global engineering firm. and they had said we don't want to work in India because of the corruption involved there. So look, he was very right, and he said we should be working on making PPP law and make sure that Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 is amended to ensure minimize the corruption in this sector. Then we can have what is called agency which coordinates between government and other kind of stakeholders, and there could be a full-fledged regulatory and development authority for PPPs. And this Swiss challenge should be demoralized. And very importantly, Kelkar has recommended that we need better financing institutions for long-term finance, because these are for long-term projects, and we need better instruments, perhaps he is also referring towards DFI. So let's have those kind of financial institutions which can fund these projects for longer period of time. So these were some of the recommendations of the Kelkar committee on what is called investments in terms of PPP, and they had said that if we really want to work upon investment models, we have to work upon hybrid annuity, which is definitely a good option, but we have to make sure that whatever corruption is there, that needs to be looked down upon. And even we can have certain PPP rules, like one of the recommendation he was saying was that why not to have some firms, engineering firms on board. There are several engineering firms across the globe which they provide wide range of EPC, engineering, and they make sure that your procurement cost is very less. So why not to have them regularly on the board, so that they are thinking as per the requirement of the India. Let's say we make a firm of USA on board for the infrastructural projects of India. Now this firm will be continuously thinking that what could be the right time of purchasing the raw material, because one of the biggest mistake in the procurement could be, in the management we say, one of the biggest mistake of the procurement could be when you are buying the raw material. When you are buying the raw material, what is the timing of buying the raw material? If they are continuous to you, let's say they are on the board as a member, you might be paying to them for it, they might be thinking what could be the right time to, yes, this matters. I could give you various examples from that how Hercules was made in USA with almost throwaway prices, and so and so. So there is always a time when the procurement cost might go to the bare minimum. But for that we need that expertise. So keeping this in mind, Kelkar has recommended we can have some firms on board also. So these were some of the recommendations Kelkar was saying, that how we can promote the investment models. So this is how, whenever the question is asked on investment model, you should be very careful that you should not be only talking about these, because generally people think investment means hybrid annuity and Swiss challenge. It's not that. At least do talk about what has been the history roughly. Do talk about that what has been the challenges and what has been done with other things, right? Now there could be several other terms like lease, operate and transfer, as we see in the airports and so and so. They remain in the same concept, that who will be built, from where the land will come to them, and how will they operate and how will transfer. Still, one of the biggest challenge in the PPP model is that overcost of the projects, because of the delay, because of the challenges. So overcost is there, and that is still unaddressed problem, we say, though there has been recommendations here and there, but this is still unaddressed problem of the investment. Most of the projects we have seen in India are getting delayed, and because of that the costing has gone up. The whole calculation go wrong. That's why time bound professional orientation is the need of our. Look, it's quite possible what Metro has done. Metro has completed many of its projects before time and had saved massive money with that. So we need to work upon it. Auditing dimension also can be, but that is something which will be the part of the PPP rule, that regulatory authority will make sure that the proper auditing is being done about the cost and about the timing and so and so. So this was about the investment model. I hope it's clear to you. Oh my God, now I got questions. I could not see these questions. Fine. In the procurement EPC model, yes, the procurement is something which is coming from the government. So the cost is beared by the government, and that is what is the biggest problem is. It gets expensive that way. Sir, is not a toll kind of double taxation? People already paying tax and government is receiving it as right, but again people paying toll for getting the services of the road. Anusha, I don't know. When it comes to tax, we have to understand one thing, that there are two types of taxes, direct taxes and indirect tax. Theoretically speaking, what you're thinking is right. To some extent, it can be said that, but it would be wrong to say that it's only your money of the tax through which the roads are built. Right, that how much of the money is coming from revenue and what are the other sources of it. When it comes to toll, it is something which can be considered as a form of indirect taxes, right? It is something which is a kind of indirect thing which you are paying, but you are paying for the service you are taking. So I don't know, theoretically speaking, I understand why you have said this, but technically speaking, the statement is wrong, because toll is not a tax per se. It's the cost you are paying for that infrastructure, that service which has been given to. And obviously, as you are in this country, because the very philosophy of the tax, as Adam Smith had said, is because you are using the resources of this land, and therefore you should pay it back. So tax is not something which you are going from the income. Mind it that your income is coming from this country, so a part of it should go. That is what he is popularly called as canons of taxation. There are 7 canons of taxation he has talked about, which is very significant. 4 is largely from Smith's write-up, and 3 later one added. They are called rainbows of taxation. So it's not that you are paying tax is something which is an obligation on you. In a way, you are earning from this resource, from the resource of this country, and that's why you are not paying tax on your entire income. There is a taxable income concept in which you pay the tax. So that, I don't want to get into that, but yes, theoretically I understood your concern, your anger, and this anger is now visible there. People are now started talking about it, why we are paying this much of tax when services are and so and so. But yes, when it comes to toll is not tax per se. Even if you are calling it in the tax category, it will be called something like indirect one, but it is something for the service you are taking, right? I respect your anger, to be honest, I respect, and this is a concern which we all think, that when we are paying heavy taxes, why these expensive tolls are there. Shubham is asking, sir, government regularly clean on the point that railway is never gone for privatized, but we see as that some railway route is used by private partners only to increase ferry services, and in latest railway say we not found PPP, hence we come on EPC. I want to ask what we call this as monetization plan by giving route or any this else, because government never use any word for it. Look, when it comes to monetization pipeline, government had said we are looking into that how we can create money from our existing brownfield assets. In railway, still we are not having, that as fact. That's why I gave you the example of Elestrom, which is coming from, which is in the EPC category for this dedicated freight corridor. The point is that we still not having that much of foreign investment or the investors interested into the railway. The reason being because they are not sure what next government will do. So there is an apprehension in their mind. So unless and until this is going to be a loud and clear policy message, perhaps investors will not be coming into that. There could be an option, if you think critically, that government could have raised what is called some kind of public debt instruments also for it. Though as I told you that invitees are used for it, infrastructure development, remember that trusts which are a kind of mutual fund are being used for it. So that way we are getting money from the public as part of investment. But yes, investment is not that encouraging as we were expecting. Now, The question you are asking whether railway is not going to get privatized, look, the only thing I can say on a loser side, that Ghalib had said this once, that tere waade pe jiye to jiye jhoot jaan, mare khushi ke mar gaye hote agar etbar hota. So when the government is saying, government, obviously government is what? Is made up of, some of the politicians, some think tanks, some democratic representatives and so and so. So keeping this in mind, we need to understand that whatever they are saying, that might be their immediate response. Government is never going to privatize railway. Any kind of the statement you can see is something which is more a populist statement, and they don't mean it. So don't take it very seriously, right? Sir, recommendations of Rakesh Mohan committee has to be done also, sir. You discussed roadways, and look, when it comes to roadways and look, aviation, I told you that roadways we are not discussing, reason being because in geography you discuss in detail about roadways, and that how many highways, national highways and state highways, and what is the status of what is called district roads and village roads, right? So I have deliberately not gone into that because there will be understanding that how odd even formula of the numbering of the highways and all. So that will be sheer overlapping. That's why we have not gone into that. Aviation, I told you, is something which we need to up to the budget to see what is new is on the anvil. So this is how we talked about this. So this was about, so Delhi to Lucknow total toll is around 1100 rupees. All right, or kya line hai hitting the bullseyes on the situation? Look, again, I will say that you are going to be bureaucrat. Let's be very honest on one thing. You are going to be bureaucrat, and as a bureaucrat, you should be very careful on one thing. Understanding one thing very carefully, and that is that the world is not something in black and white. Let's be honest. So please don't think too much on the ethical dimension, whether it's right or wrong and so and so. Like or dislike it, but this is a fact that, those who are affluent, they determine the rule of the game. They determine the rule of the game, and we all are the part of it. What we can do is, Hitler has said a line, I don't know Hitler is worth recommending or not, but one of his lines I like in his famous book Mein Kampf, he wrote about it, that don't like the rule, follow it, reach at the top and change forever. So this is my advice to you. Have this anger which you are having in these questions, that why we are having this much of toll and so and so. Who stops you? Go and become the bureaucrat, reach at the top, reach at the secretary level and change it forever. Why not? There could be alternatives. Trust me, there are alternatives. You give us as a secretary, the team of economists, you order us that, sir, we want a solution, we will give you the solution. And there are several solutions which can be given. Academia can provide you that even we can have actually toll-free roads and these kind of things, provided you show a political will for it. Now, whether the political will is not there or not, as an economics student, I am not the right person to comment upon it, that why political will is not there, what is the problem with the democracy and so and so. I hope you understand that that's not my domain. That's definitely not my domain. So this is how, when we talk about this idea of investment models, right? So, but yes, the cost is there. The cost, because there are so many things. Obviously, there are so many things which we need to work upon, and when it comes to tolls, even we believe that there should be some rationalization. Look, JNK, as somebody is asking, obviously the cost is higher, but then even perhaps some other costs are there. I can give you an example of JP, Jayaprakash, that JP group which had made Yamuna Expressway. That Yamuna Expressway, now it's clearly looked like he made the road. In the land acquisition, he got a lot of area where the greater Noida and then this racing track and all that was developed. When he sold all those things and booked profit on a separate firm, now he's saying, I'm not in profit, I'm going to sell it. Who will buy now Yamuna Expressway? There is no bidder, so the government of UP will buy it. and the final tax will be on us. We all are knowing that we have to pay now even more toll, because JP Group will sell it to the government, and the government will be having toll for it, because government tried to get the bidder, but there was no bidders. Even this new Lucknow Agra expressway, government wanted to have bidders for the TOT model. No one turned up. So end of the day, it is UP government which has to do it. So keeping these challenges in mind, but that is something which is definitely not our domain here. Let's have our boundaries clear. As of now, I don't think you should be asking these fundamental questions. Your job is get into the power, get your motivations clear, and then go and work hard, right? So, and once you reach at the top, yes, nobody stops you to change the thing. So this is how we got when we talk about this idea. But yes, if Kelkar is saying that Prevention of Corruption Act has to be amended, he is giving fair hint that were the problems in PPP model. So this was about, when we talk about that idea of investment model. Is that fine? Is that clear? So this was about the investment models and all. As per writing part of this is concerned, can we write it? It may take 5-10 minutes. Let's finish it. Why to delay? Let's finish the writing part. It may take 5-10 minutes. Or if you want, I can make one PPT kind of thing and can give it to sir. He will forward it to you. That's fine. But in that case, I require at least 3-4 days, because my days are very choked these days. So I will be a little free on the weekends. I will work on this and will provide you whatever is fine with you, because it's not something very rocket science kind of thing. It's very basic to understand that how it works. Abhishek, sir, if the government tempered to purchase bonds from the market, it increases the money inflow. How it affects the interest rates in general? Look, if the government tempered to purchase bonds from the market, obviously it depends, because I cannot see in your question how it affects the interest rate in general. When we talk about determining interest rates, interest rate is something which is definitely determined on two significant factors. One is whether it is going to be what is going to be demand of that bond. That's one thing. And second thing is that whatever your bond is, what is going to be the promise, or you can say against which collateral the bond is being created. So interest rate of anything when is determined either on the likely demand and the kind of project where the money is going to be utilized, or who is going to be the source. So whenever government is, because you are using the term tempered to purchase the bonds from the market, look, whenever government is trying to do that, definitely an artificial demand is created, and that might result into the higher inflation things. I don't know how much you're knowing about the bond yield and these kind of things, so I will not drift so much into that. But in general, definitely it will create a favorable situation for the bond. So PPT is all right. Many of you are saying, okay, fine. Fine. So, but please don't ask this PPT before this weekend, because I am already having that things in, and it's just 2-page PPT, but I have to sit and have to look. You have seen that I don't. I prefer to give you that holistic picture, what is called 360-degree. So that's why I prefer this model. But you might be tired as you know. So this is it about what is called investment models, and I'll give you the write-up part of it. It will take 2 PPTs or 3 PPTs at the best, and that will suffice the purpose. All right, fine. Now before I wind up, so this was it. This was the task given to me. The tasks of stock market, the tasks of what is called balance of payment, the tasks of WTO, IMF, and World Bank, and the infrastructure and investment models. I hope I could help you to not only developing your understanding of the subject, but at the same time you also got that cutting edge which is required in this examination. Again, I'll say confine to the official sources, take economics survey, at least the booklet one, seriously, and keep an eye on the current affairs. I hope I made you little informed about the subject, so that you develop interest in reading newspaper articles and all. And on a very personal note, though we got 12 classes, but on a very personal note, I thoroughly enjoyed your questions. This is I'd like to say before I wind up. I thoroughly enjoyed your questions. The kind of questions were coming. I really wish that we were in front end talking, and even after the class we could have continued for longer. But it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. Journey with you. And interestingly, why I'm saying that it was fun to look into your questions, because your questions make me even better teacher. This is the honest statement that because when you ask the question, we think from various perspective, and so sometime even we have to look into the things from altogether a fresh angle from the youngsters' mind point of view. So your questions definitely polish us, and thank you for that. So this is it. I will write down my email ID again, but before I'll wind up, if you want to say anything good or bad, particularly bad, if you think that how I particularly can improve my classes for upcoming batches and so, your feedbacks, your suggestions are always welcome. Anything if you want to say, here you can say here also. This is my email ID, Sunil Kumar Singh 2@gmail.com, and by chance it will not be there, but even if this PPT of investment model is not reaching to you by the end of this month, you can directly mail me scolding, sir, it has yet not come, right? So so this is how we got when we talk about this topic, and I hope it was productive for you. Thank you.